So, I mean, I know what action.
That's your, that's your
All right,
view.
all right.
That's your view. My main point is that we need to, the planning commission really has to be a more of a leadership.
Kate and Amy, can you hear me?
Or zoning.
Here's Kate.
Yes.
We can.
Hi.
If it goes
I'm here.
down that way, that they do water down the town plan, yeah, then we have the software with zoning. But there's nothing we can do to stop if they're held that.
Okay. We ready to call the meeting to order?
Different. If you don't, they won't change their ways. They don't expect you to look at the zoning.
Well, that's, we can preface our future meetings with zoning. We put it on our future agenda, but because there's nothing, it's not gonna change anything. It's just gonna put our position in, like, maybe create a controversy where none exists.
This is the difference between you and I.
Or we have two people attending
We'll
remotely.
all come into it.
Kate is,
Yeah.
and also Amy is. All right, shall we call the meeting to order? 1833, 6:33, June 3rd. Any changes to tonight's agenda that was published?
I'd like to have a brief discussion about the select board meeting last night, or the night before, and that, just as sort of an update. George, you weren't there, right?
Yep, that's right.
Do you have a suggestion
That's
where
the
you
first
want?
item here, right?
No, no, right now we're on adjustments to the minutes.
All right,
Well, that's
let's,
why I said, any action will be discussed here.
Yeah, that's okay.
in the town plan section.
Yeah, I was trying to keep it separate, but
All
that's
right,
okay.
well, that's fine.
If it's already a quorum.
That's
Yeah,
fine.
if it's already there, we don't have to add it in.
Any comments on the minutes
Okay.
from our last meeting?
I need to make give an explanation. When I had my accident, I asked Kate if she would take the minutes of the May meeting. And she did, and she sent them out, but I didn't realize she hadn't sent it out to the parties, the select board or the town. So that's why I got an email a few days ago saying, hey, Jay, get it together. So Kate was right. I missed the ball to see that they hadn't been sent out. Mea culpa.
She's chastised.
And I was going to bring them tonight, but I couldn't find them. So I don't know if anybody else has them, but I have no listing of what she had created.
Do you have the?
John should have a copy, right?
No, I never got them, which is
Oh.
what
No.
But you said she copied the select board, or she didn't?
She called
No,
us
Oh,
when
just
I went
us.
back, and
Oh,
when I saw
One of
that,
us can dig them out.
yeah. And,
I sent them to
they
Jay.
go to the town. The select board doesn't need them. I don't need them. They just have to be posted online.
Okay, so we can just do that when we.
You can send them right to the clerk if you want
Okay.
to.
oh yeah, it's,
That'd be
Turn
great.
up the volume. I can't hear the folks.
You're asking me tricky questions.
That's why you're here, John.
Oh. I thought it might be up there, but it
what are you looking for?
was volume.
Was that?
No, I'm sorry.
Volume. Kate, can you say something?
Well, in case I am.
Right? Can you hear me?
Thank you, sir.
Yep.
Okay, is there anything you wanted to say about that that Jay made? Okay, no.
Is she speak? Kate, can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, you got my apologies.
It's okay, Jay. Very generous of you.
Okay, all right. Okay, so why don't we move on to that discussion that's complementary to the town plan item, but you wanted to keep it separate, so let's discuss that on the select board meeting on Monday.
No, I'm going to pass on that for the moment.
Okay, okay.
So I guess what we need is a motion that if the board wants to endorse what I had submitted to the select board,
Yes.
we could do that by a vote.
Any comments or changes on that document?
Well, first of all, I make a motion that we accept Dan's letter.
Okay, as is, no
I
discussion?
second them.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Unanimous. All right. Guess we can begin with Kevin Street.
Want to do Kevin?
What's that?
Did you want to go
Is there
right to
anything you want to say?
Kevin?
Do you want to begin with Kevin?
Can we get a report on what you take away from the select board open hearing on town plan?
Yeah, John and Jay were there also.
Or any of you, yeah.
I think that's the things that I put in the letter are under consideration at the select board. Fair to say.
Yeah, and I think we all know that's very critical. If in fact the select board, whatever they do, but if one of those is to really nullify the town plan, then I guess in my most humble of opinion, that means there will be zoning in town because we have no other document and no other ability to change if a project comes in town. Because I don't think the district environmental commission, if we only have shoulds, will pay much attention to us. And so it sort of forces us in a different direction, for better or for worse.
But my understanding was that you communicated that we preferred to have the shalls remain
Right.
because there's no guarantee of where we are with the bylaws.
Right, and even the bylaws could be adopted by the select board but voted down, so. And then we've got nothing, so.
Right.
And I guess it's probably fair to say if we were both predicting outcomes that I'd be a pessimist in that regard, but I'm hoping the optimists are right, but.
So there was some passionate discussion from people. If I had a concern, it was that we need to be certain of the understanding, what we're doing, what that plan is about, what bylaws are about. There were some comments made that, well, I think they were a bit excessive in terms of what we're doing. I don't think we're shoving anything down anyone's throat. And so that's a concern to me, that maybe the communication's not been as effective as it needs to be on what's being done and why it's being done.
Well, I tried to express it in the letter, so if we're okay with that.
And I guess I'm not sure if this summarizes what we've had in previous discussions, is that I view the town plan and the bylaws as two separate entities. They are.
They are.
They follow two separate processes that are not necessarily guaranteed to cross that finish line at the same time.
Oh, no.
And
Yeah,
as a
absolutely.
result, we need to have the bird in the hand
Right.
versus wishing that you did.
Yeah, the finish line for the town plan is soon.
Very close.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, thank you. I just want to make sure that was kind of where we were.
But one does influence the other, and maybe in unintended ways.
Well, the bylaws should not be inconsistent with the town plan, and that's
I'm
the
gonna argue
concern
that, but
for
we don't
the,
have
yeah,
bylaws right
that's
now.
That's right.
And we are reviewing a town plan.
Right.
That's my concern.
But if the concern that bylaws could end up being conflicting with the town plan is a genuine concern, but I think that easily overcome and not worth the roll of the dice of not having a strong town plan.
That's what we've been working on for years, is a strong town plan.
Yeah.
And if by removing, I think, 4 instances of shalls to shoulds, it cuts it down at its knees, and that's a problem. And that will drive other businesses in town. And so it certainly is well worth being really careful about what you eliminate for those 4 instances of shoulds or shalls.
Did you have any thoughts on that comment of using the word will? Do you guys remember that?
Well, I don't think there's,
I
I don't remember that. I mean,
Yeah.
shall is more of a legal term than will.
So-
The lady,
This on Station Road, Martha.
yeah,
No, Sherry, Clark.
she was very emphatic about the use of the word will. She saw it as more powerful
Then shall.
than shall.
I mean, we need a linguist.
Well, no, you know, you think about it, I think to the average person, will is a more, you will do this. That's an absolute statement.
Well, you
Shall is not a common usage
It's not.
outside of legal.
No, that's right. So,
Not outside of,
but it is a legal document.
But we're gonna end up in a legal conversation, so you may as well use that language.
someone has written a dissertation on that, someone find it.
Yeah, we have enough controversy with should and shall. We don't have to get into one with will and shall. Yeah.
I guess I hate to say last comment because that means I'm silent, but
You shall.
I should be quiet, but I'm not sure if I shall.
Will you?
Possibly. I guess the part that concerns me the most is that I almost feel like there's something being lost in a conversation that we had for a period of time with Two Rivers, one that sort of then had some reflection from the select board, ended up on our desk to develop this town plan. At the same time, we had a parallel court case going that had been impacted by verbiage in the previous town plan. And then, in all good faith, we went and changed our town plan to have some backbone, if you will. And then, seemingly out of nowhere, the rug gets pulled out by comments that are coming outside of this commission. And I'm not saying this out of anger, I'm saying it out of a little bit of frustration.
No, I was surprised too that it was so last minute, and I thought we had worked through that whole issue before we before we forwarded our version to the select board, and then to see it changed at the last minute I was disconcerted by it too.
So wherever we go in future conversations, it's my understanding that a town plan can be edited, revised, modified, whatever term you want to place on it, after it has been approved. And if that be the case, then I'd like to reinforce that I would prefer shall in there. And if after the fact there are changes that may or may manifest themselves in a bylaw or not, then we can go back in and make sure that those two documents talk to each other correctly. But for right now, I don't want to be held out there being exposed.
Yeah, I mean, well, the ball's in the select board's court now, so they'll end up with the town plan is a town document. It's not like anything we own. And so we did, our charge is to, create it, and then, but it's not finalized by us.
I
So,
agree
so
100%, but I also understand that we're playing this wonderful little tennis match here, and there are spectators that can
All
hear
right,
us.
I think I would say that I think our position is clear now, and so,
Yeah.
Yeah, we documented the position.
fine.
let's see what
You
happens.
produced the product,
Well,
and you
it's-
underscored the concerns and how you think it would be. I don't see that we can do more than that at this time.
It's clear to us, Dan, and we would hope that the select board would maybe at least comment back on our comments to say that they heard our great concern and that is there some other way around it. What I did to better understand where we were is I spent,
You're staring at me?
no, I thought,
He was acknowledged Monday night that Dan had spoken on his behalf and was drafting a document that would be adopted by the select board. And so I don't think it's,
Yeah, I felt I got a fair and impartial
Right.
hearing at the select board.
I can assure you that, Dan, your comment letter from what at the time was you, was shared with the select board prior to the public hearing.
Okay.
So, if you're changing nothing in that letter, that information's already been shared and at least received by the select board.
Right, and I heard nothing at the meeting, their meeting, that,
That's why I said should, not shall.
okay.
I need to respond again. We made a motion at the last meeting directing you to capture our thoughts and share that with the select board. We asked you to do that. Tonight, we did formally say we liked what you had done, even though we had given you that license before.
Well, we didn't have a document.
We
It
didn't,
sort of
but-
gave me the license, but until there was a communication.
No, that's fine.
Yeah,
My point
it was
was
just a-
that it's coming across as
Right.
being just you,
Yeah.
but those are our sentiments included in
Oh,
yours.
Yeah,
It wasn't just you
Yeah.
out
yeah,
there.
I think we're legal now, so.
Right. So what I can do, Steve, to address what I think a hearing is your concern, is just resend it and note that it's on behalf of the Heartland Planning Commission at this
Okay.
point. And therefore, it's widely acknowledged and understood that it's not just Dan speaking, it's the Heartland Planning Commission.
That was my bottom line.
well, it is in the record as such. It's in the
It is a
minutes
record
of
from
this.
Monday night.
Yeah, it's in the record.
Okay.
There's no question.
But it's in a record as Dan.
Right, because that's all I represented it as,
Right.
and that was
You were
correct.
quite
yeah, so,
clear.
yeah, okay.
I think in my emails to you, that's why I suggested I put it on the agenda tonight.
Yeah.
Because I thought it was really important.
Oh, yeah.
That we get it right
Yeah,
out there,
no,
and we vote on it, rather than
Right.
just what.
Now
we
it's
thought.
just not this is, it's become adopted by the
It's a
planning
planning commission
commission.
document drafted by you.
Thank you for writing that.
You're welcome. Thanks for the support. And good cover.
Are we comfortable with that?
Yep, sure.
Kevin,
Yes.
would like to listen to you.
Oh, good. All right. So tonight we're gonna.
Don't take this the wrong
He
way.
just wants to drive his car, that's all.
That was nice. So tonight we're going to begin on general standards and then district standards. Assuming the town plan stays in rough shape in terms of future land use areas and some of the language around that, we at least have the district set. And so general standards are things that apply kind of everywhere, and instead of putting them district by district by district, we would put them general. Some of these are real boring, so I'll go through them somewhat quickly, and some are statutory. So multiple buildings on a lot. Typically, if you say, well, you need a minimum lot size of 1 acre or something in the zoning, you go, well, I've got a house, I've got a bunch of land, but I've got a house, and I want to build another house over there. But I don't want to actually subdivide right now, for whatever reason, who cares? But because the zoning says, you can have one house on the lot or not, this makes it clear you can have more than one principal building, as we call it, as long as it's subdividable. So we don't care that you actually subdivide. Now you build your house, you build your kid a house, whatever. You can have 2 businesses on the lot, as long as it's later able to be subdivided, because the worry is when you permit that second thing, you don't want the applicant to later come in and not be able to subdivide it, and therefore have created a non-conforming, a thing that doesn't comply with the law. So all this says is, hey, yeah, you can do that, we don't care, as long as it'll work. Mixed uses. Again, you might have a building, actually probably the building across the street is a good example. It's got all sorts of things in one structure. So, but again, we don't care to do that. We're not going to be like, nope, you can only have a restaurant, you can't have housing or whatever. But you basically have to, oops, there's Bradford in there. Let's make sure I get that out of there. I stole some of that from Bradford. But all the rules apply. So it isn't like the best or the worst thing apply, all the rules apply. So if there's parking for that business, and there's parking for the next business, and parking, they all add up together. Minimum lot size, there's some statute around this, and that is that the law says if you can, first off, you can't create a landlocked lot. And so you can't allow that to be created. And this would be here, is that you can't create a non-conforming lot. So if you say you need 1 acre or whatever the thing is, you can't subdivide less than 1 acre. We can talk about waivers when we get a little more fancy later.
How about an easement?
An easement, you mean you're just going to have a right-of-way over a parcel or something?
So landlocked, but you have an easement access.
Yes, right, and so that is kind of a critical question. So we call those back lots or other things, but things that, so the lot doesn't come down and touch the road. The lot is accessed by a right-of-way. Or it potentially could be accessed by a fee simple little, chunk of land. One way, a simple way to kind of keep people out of the woods somewhat is to say all lots have to have frontage. You can't put a right-of-way to a lot. Good and bad, things on that. Maybe there's a lot of developable land in the back and the stuff by the woods is swamp. Maybe you would rather have somebody be back there. The other thing is, no, that doesn't keep somebody from having a large lot and still going in the back. They just have to have a large lot that comes down and have frontage. This assumes that you do frontage and rights of way, access rights of way.
And this is only predicated, or it's all predicated upon a vehicle.
Well,
You're going to let someone walk into?
Yeah, you in some ways don't necessarily care how they get there, except they're going to have to give you, when you do a subdivision and you create a parcel, if you're creating a parcel accessed by a right of way, they basically have to lay out a roadway that would work. They don't have to build the road, especially if it's just them, but they would have to say, this is where my driveway is going to go, or this is where the roadway is going to go, and this thing isn't crazy steep.
So the roadway is a common denominator. Does it have to be a public roadway?
No. And I put in, I'm going to use what generally we use, which is driveways are to you, and to you, and one other lot. Once it starts to access 3 lots or more, we tend to define it as a private road. There are no statutory stuff around that.
So right of way, did you just talk about how it evolves from a right of way to a private road?
Well, the right of way is the legal ability to travel on the thing, right? What's in that right of way, whether it be you just walk, or there's a trail, or a driveway, or a private road, really depends upon what's going on back there. And the law says that that right of way cannot be less than 20 feet in width. Like, you have to allow it. We suggest that that's too small. Because everything's got to happen within the right of way. If Dan sells me a back lot and I've got a right of way, and I just have a 20-foot right of way, which would be legal in the state, I got to fit everything in there. I got to fit my power line, I got to fit my road, I got to fit my ditch. You know, and yeah, if it's just a straight driveway, well, 10, 12 feet probably for a traveled way. Then I'm going to go down to a ditch, then I'm going to go up from a ditch, and then I'm going to have a pole, and I'm going to clear some trees there, and doing all that in 20 feet gets touchy. So we've suggested 30 feet. But we say you allow the state, says 20 feet. And then we say 50 feet if it's going to be a private road, because then we're going to have some more traffic going on things.
So if I'm just doing it to have another house.
Yeah.
That to me seems like a fairly simple right of way. If someone were going to build a small business back there, where they would need more than just a few cars each day, does it still get called a right of way or something else?
It's still right of way, and the thing that goes to it, if it just goes to it, it's a driveway versus a private road. But that's when in your subdivision, when they're creating that lot back there, that's when we suggest that towns always require the applicant to say what the subdivision is for. Is it for a house? Is it for a hunting lodge, or whatever the thing may be? It's not just cutting up the land because of that exact issue. One of those things is how much. But give the applicants an out. I have dealt with applicants in towns who they don't want to get a septic design and pay thousands of dollars for that because they need that when they create a lot in Vermont. Or they can do a deed notice. They just do the deed notice. It says, I don't know what you can do here. Fire beware. They don't want to build the road. They don't want to do anything else. And they're like, I don't know what anybody wants. I just want to cut a piece of land off and sell it. I don't know what they're going to do. And so when we get down to subdivision on a different day, we actually say the applicant has to say what they're going to do. If they apply for no use in the subdivision because they don't know what they're going to do, then the subdivision permit does not permit a use. It permits creation of the lot. It does not permit any use on that lot. If they want to ever do anything on that lot again, they got to come back and open up their permit. Some people are fine because they're like, I just want to, I want like a place to go hunt or walk around, or who cares?
That analogy you gave, so when you said there were 3 branches, that's when the trunk, if you will, of the tree becomes a private road. Are the branches part of the private road, or are they driveways into the...
Typically driveways.
So do you treat driveways differently? Do the rules respond to driveways differently than the private road?
Mainly in terms of how wide the thing is.
So the 30 and 50?
Yeah. The main rule, because if somebody says, well, why do you care, you busybodies? Like, I can build a crazy road to my house, and you go, because our $500,000 fire truck's going to go up your crazy road and fall in the ditch, and then we won't have a truck. We only have 1 truck or 2 trucks or whatever. And that's really the reason why. the place, so we suggest also that in the case of the person is building the same thing, but they already own the lot. They're not creating a back lot. They just want to build back here. It's the same house, same road, everything. But it's a driveway without a subdivision. We suggest that towns regulate the driveway, that the driveway itself gets a zoning permit if that's all they're doing. They're like, I don't know what I'm going to do, but all I'm doing is building a driveway around it. Fine. We are going to regulate that and make sure it's not crazy, because somebody goes in and builds driveway, then they sell a lot later, somebody comes in and gets a permit, and you're like, well, now it's kind of too late to go regulate.
Now you're talking, when you say regulate.
Yeah.
Slope.
Slope.
Width.
Yeah.
Okay.
And really what you care about is the slope, and the town actually has some good ordinances over there around roads and stuff, and which I referenced. The thing about your town, like a lot of towns, actually has, it uses the old AOT standard for private roads, which is a 24-foot traveled way. And I mean, I was just driving on several town roads that have nowhere near a 24-foot travel. So to me, it makes no sense to require applicants to build 24-foot, graded surface when the town road going to there is only 14 feet wide. We do suggest that either private roads either be 18 feet wide, which allows for two-way traffic, 18 feet works, or that you have pullouts. And the main reason there, again, fire, if your house is on fire, one tanker does not put out your house. So they end up doing tanker relays, and you don't want to have the tanker backing down the road or whatever. So you've got to be able to be like, okay, so pull out. In a commercial application, you might also be thinking about the traffic, or if you had deliveries or whatnot. So that's where we suggest 50 feet and 30 feet as a minimum there, and then you can't create a lot without doing that. We do put in a thing here that, because this, I don't know, you guys may have dealt with this already, well, not you, but you may know about it in the select board. If they intend, I was just in Rochester, no, Grandma, where this came up. Person is not needing a new road, their property accesses the town road, they're going to put a driveway in, but their property accesses the class 4 road. And the class 4 is really crappy in this case. So they actually, and you have a policy around this, they actually want to improve the class 4 road so they can get to where they're going to be putting their driveway and bringing lumber and whatnot.
They want the town to improve it, or
No, they want to improve it. But you can't go improve a town road willy-nilly. Every now and then we find somebody who's done that. And so right now, you have a town right-of-way, highway right-of-way policy that actually says if you want to improve a legal trail or a town road, you, the applicant, you basically go talk to the select board and figure out how you're going to do that. But that can be done.
Just as an aside, maybe, let's assume that I improved that road. Who is then responsible for maintaining it?
Just because you make a class 4 road decent does not make it not a class 4 road. So the town's under no compunction to keep plow it or
Okay.
do all sorts of other things. There are a lot of landowners who, depending upon the town, sometimes towns will be like, oh yeah, sure, we'll do that. Sometimes,
or they form groups.
or they form groups. Stratford had a section of class 4 road that really connected to class 3s, and a lot of people used it. And there, the town is basically like, we'd like to improve this stretch.
Yeah.
But the big thing we're going to regulate is slope. And you guys can go back and forth on what you think is a slope thing. 8% is kind of, to me, being overly restrictive, 8% is not, 8 feet, 100-foot run. 10% a lot of people do. Once you get up 13, 14%, that's a very steep road, actually. For those of you who've driven to our office at King Farm Driving, right at the top of the hill, the steepest part has a 13% slope. And that's always where you stop and slide in winter and have to go right down. This part deals with not the thing under the bylaw, but the separate access permit that the town gives, the select board gives, or the road foreman, depending upon the town. And I'm the applicant. I come and get my access permit from select board, road foreman, whoever, that says, oh, I want to put my driveway here. Great. Then they come to you all to get their permit, and you're like, no, not there, over here. There's no compunction that you go, well, they gave you the access permit, we have to put these things together. That's the applicant's problem. So,
But can't the town decide whether they want to put the access permits under the purview of the zoning ordinance?
no.
No.
That's a Title 19, 11 permit, as you say. And you don't have clear enabling language to say you have to go get that permit before you come and get our permit. We say the access permit application has to be in your permit application. And basically, everybody should go and figure out what you're going to do so they're not blindsided by the fact that they're not the same thing. The access permit covers the touching of the town road and the stuff within the right of way, but only that part. The driveway and the road is everything else. And it actually covers, your town covers the culvert too, so if you have a culvert kind of in the town ditch at the end of the road, that's covered there. Everybody puts this part in their bylaws, which is just because you make us a nice fancy private road doesn't mean the town's going to take it. You don't have to put that in there, but everybody's just do that. Existing small lots is a part set out by statute, and you get a choice in here. I picked the less restrictive option. In general, my attitude and Hartman's always going to pick the less restrictive option, which is state law says as long as somebody has a pre-existing lot that is at least 1/8 of an acre in size and no smaller than 40 feet in any dimension. So it can be a pretty dang, be the size of this room. Then they get to develop. So for some reason, somebody has a crazy little lot out there, they're going to come in, they're going to get a zoning permit to put something there. The problem is, well, what if I have this crazy lot and then I buy the lot next door, which is perfectly fine? Do all of a sudden we switch those two together and go, you can't use that crazy lot anymore? Or not? And the law gives you the option of doing that, of going, yep, we automatically join them or we don't. In your case, I've said they're not automatically joined because that's the most loose version. You could say, no, we don't want you to stick them together. But that's one of your choices, but you have to kind of say yours.
It doesn't preclude joining them, it just doesn't make it automatic.
It doesn't make it automatic. And the reason I go there, besides the fact that it's the looser option, is you go, well, from a land use perspective, if somebody else owns this lot, they can do stuff. Just because I own both, why do I get something that a stranger could do over here, but I can't? This just gets into driveways and private roads. You're going to need a permit to do that. Blah, blah, blah. You don't have private road and driveway standards right now. You do have a highway policy, a curb cut policy, and some other things out there, which I would steal from. But essentially, and I'm sure you all know some driveways in town, maybe your own one, that just goes like up the hill. Bad for many, many reasons. Water comes down, there's a dam of ice sticking out in the road from the driveway. There's mud, there's gravel washing onto the pavement, you name it. The thing, you can't get the truck up there, all this type of stuff. That's why you regulate that. Again, you don't require them to build it necessarily, but you might say, you have to show us this thing. Water and wastewater supply. This you can require, so we suggest that towns always do require this, is you can't go make a lot unless you get a septic design. And kind of a well, you gotta show where the well is going to be. You don't actually have to drill the well to get the permit from the state. This is a state permit.
So you can't make the lot, or you can't form the lot, or you can't build a lot.
You can't make a lot. You can't legally make a
That's
lot.
the difference. Yeah. State law now, as I understand it, they just say you can't build anything on without a water.
Well, you can't do that too, but you can't even make the lot.
Yeah, you can't do that.
Unless, so you have two options. You either do the design, or you do the deed notice that says, I may never be able to do anything, anytime, anywhere with this.
Right. So that is allowed under the state.
Yes.
So you wouldn't necessarily have to go there.
You wouldn't have to make them get a septic design. Right, they do that. One of the things that we suggest, so that would be covered in the subdivision, is the state says that deed notice is filed in the deed, obviously. And it's a required paragraph in it. The long story short is it says you might never be able to do anything.
You might not.
Never be able to do anything
Oh,
in this lot. What we say, and now we put it in all our bylaws, is that because the only time you find that is if your lawyer is doing a title search and looking at the deed. Whereas if I just meet Dan in the parking lot to buy a chunk of forest and go, Dan, you got any forest? And he goes, yeah, I got some forest. And I just buy the land. I haven't seen anything. But you, yes.
So I own a 10, I'm not saying I do. I have a 10-acre lot. Ledge, flat land. And I say, okay, I'm going to sell it. I'm going to subdivide it off. I can subdivide it, but no one can do anything with it. Is that the long and the short of it?
You can subdivide it, but you'll have to put that deed notice on before you sell that subdivision.
And what would the deed notice say?
It says, buyer beware, you may never be able to do
Oh,
it.
buyer beware.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, what we say, and what you'll see eventually when we write subdivision stuff, is that there's a plat. A plat has to be filed still. You always have to file a plat. Like a little line drawn on the lot, goes in the town records. And that's usually what people see. If you go on Zillow, and you're looking at land, they usually have this plat. And you go, oh, that's what the parcel looks like. We always say that notice has to be in at least 12-point font on the plat. Because usually people see the plat, and then it goes, warning. And you see this thing, and you go, oh, what's that? That means I may never be able to do it. Instead of just seeing it on the deed itself. In the case where they do need one, because they're coming in to build a house or whatever, you are enabled, and so we write it, that they can't get their house permit until they get their septic permit. You should make them get that first. And that's good because your Jay's 10 acres of ledge, they come in and they say, oh, this is where I'm going to put my road, and that's where I'm going to put my house, blah, blah, blah. But they haven't done a septic permit, and it turns out only this spot over here works for that. And now everything's got rearranged because this is the only spot the septic works. So a lot of times do that. We've had people build roads over their septic systems. I've had people put all the septic systems in the forest that they say they're not going to cut. And you're like, guys, bulldozers aren't involved here. You got to make sure that. Lighting. This is where you put your antenna up. People may get touchy on lighting. Everybody may have a horror story on lighting. Most towns don't regulate lighting. if they do regulate lighting, they only regulate it on commercial uses. A few do something more. And so this is my very brief general lighting standard. So this applies to houses, any new thing you're building out there. You can't shine lights up. So you can't be like, oh, I think I'll put spotlights and point them up on my barn because I like the look of my barn, whatever. Nope, no can do that. Exterior fixtures, you can have all lights on inside your house as well, you know. Exterior fixtures, except motion censored area lighting, which can be spotlights because they're going to come on and go up. Shall use fully cut off and shielded fixtures. So those are the things in the little box, so that you can't see the light bulb, light source, and it shines down onto their property. And except security lighting on commercial stuff, you can only light it an hour before and an hour after, or when employees on site, because sometimes people are there long before you open and long after you close, whichever is greater. You could say, we don't want to touch lighting. Take that. You could say, we only want to regulate commercial lighting. Or you could do a general standard like this. Think about that. Most towns just regulate it on commercial stuff. Because for the average Joe, they go, that isn't going to affect me because I'm just building a house. I don't know, have you guys run into, we've had a couple house lights that people put on, and they're just like crazy.
Well, some people, yeah, I mean, if you're paranoid about crime, you're gonna flood on your property, and that's where you get, if you're living next door to that.
Right, and then you could be in a nuisance lawsuit.
Yeah.
We had somebody on the main road in Pomfret where I basically put 2 street lamps, not like, you know, that have the like big bulbs
I've seen them.
at the end of their driveway, and everybody in the valley could see them. And then somebody talked to somebody, and they went away. But you could regulate them, or not. You're not required to at all on this. So those are kind of some general stuff that would apply to everywhere. There's some more things we could put in there. But this is really where the fun is tonight. And this has to do with what can go where.
Kevin, I do have a
Yes.
fairly maybe simplistic question. Is there some place in this bylaw where it might stipulate that any pre-existing conditions are exempt from this?
Yep.
So they can't be backdated?
Right. Yeah. No, that's up earlier. Where
I didn't remember where it was.
There's pre-existing development. Anything that was legal at the time it was made versus an illegal thing. But if it was legal when it was made, it gets to run indefinitely. The tricky part, I would say, is, oh, I had a bar in this residential neighborhood and I stay open till 1. I drive everybody crazy, but I've had it, so you can't give me. But now I want to double the size of my bar. And somebody goes, well, I already had a bar, you can't. Nope, you get to keep that bar.
What you had.
So expanding and modifying things like that do allow you to come in. In fact, Vermont actually allows you to, those are what we call nonconformities. Vermont law actually allows you to extinguish those over time. So you might say, I have got a big sign. My sign fell down, I want to put a big sign. Nope, your sign, we don't allow signs in that district. You don't get a sign. You could do that in Vermont. Most people, most towns say, whatever you had, you can keep. Yeah, and that's going to be a critical part because that, everybody's going to ask you that. Because people hate it when you go, they're going to look at this list, and they're going to go, oh, I'm in the X district. Oh, we're going to have a little more before we get there. But we're going to be down here on standards. And they're going to be like, oh, I have a restaurant, and it's in the rural district, and that's not allowed, and so you're telling me I have to burn down my restaurant. No, C-section. So this is where we're going to get to. Before we get there, a couple little other things, you need a permit, yada, yada. Since districts determine the rules, what happens if you're in two districts? Doesn't happen all the time, but it happens more than you think. And what this says is that part goes in that district, that part goes in that district, if they comply. If they don't, they go in the bigger one. If nobody complies, we figure it out. You have to put this is where your town plan and the bylaw come together somewhat, because you have to put purposes in, and so I've kind of taken some of the stuff and squished it together and made little purpose statements for each district. You have 6. And then the use table is really where a lot of those things come out. And so here's your 6 districts: village, rural business, rural residential, rural industrial, and rural forestry, and what you can do in there. There are intentionally not a lot of uses. These are all uses that not a lot. Single and duplex. In Vermont, a duplex and a single house are treated exactly the same, so they're rules. And accessory dwelling units, wherever you allow those, you also allow accessory dwelling units, so those rules would be the same. Accessory structure is different than accessory dwelling unit. Those are sheds and whatnot. Everybody gets those because everybody might be having an accessory structure out there. Home occupation, you get that wherever you have a home. Office. And in my little email today, I explained something about this. You might go, well, everybody can get an office. Why not? Maybe it's a dinky office, maybe a big office. I have put no office in the rural, which is more out there, the industrial, and the rural ag and forestry. But you might go, and that's somewhat because reading your plan, you talk about things like rural ag and forestry. We pretty much just want farms and forests. Industrial, maybe it'll be okay to have an office down there. Rural, that's the touchy one. And what I said in the email is basically you could go, well, I don't mind an office in the rural that's small, but you can have a bigger office in the village. And so how will I, if I just say office, and that's all we've said, how will I know that this office isn't crazy big compared to the office in the village? And there you could, later when we talk about numerical stuff, you might go, we don't care how big the office is, except over in this district, it can't be bigger than this big. And that's, to me, scale is a way to get to a lot of concerns about things being big out in the hinterlands, just the size of the footprint. That's why we've changed our regional plan, which is in effect right now, such that if you are, because of the Act 250 on Sunnymead down the road here, they use what our resource-based industry to say that's a resource-based industry, which is not what we meant. But now we say that's 3,000 square feet, period. And so you can't build a 7,000 square feet.
How important do you think it is to distinguish between home occupation and office? Because a lot of home occupations, what the occupation is an office.
It is, and that's why I put a little bit right up in here, which really says all uses have definitions, because those things are important. What we define as an office. And you're right, home occupation is defined by law. Everybody who has a home gets a home occupation if they want. The 2 big tests on home occupation is it has to be less than half of the area of the house, and it has to basically not mess up a residential neighborhood.
That's the wording for our home occupation in the town plan now.
Yep.
And that, you think that came from a state?
Yeah,
Oh,
state.
okay.
And so what then most towns do is go, well, let's put some parameters on that in the beginning so everybody will know. And what most towns do is they say, they limit number of employees, they limit office hours, and they limit exterior stuff, because they go, how is it gonna be kind of like a house? You can't have more than 5 employees on site, you can't be open after 6 and before 6, and you can't have exterior storage, where neighbors can see it, and that type of thing.
So when you say office on that list,
That is
you're talking about a standalone.
standalone office. Yeah, because that would be defined as just an office, not in the home. Or it might be a home office that is above and beyond. I have a dinky home and a great big office, so I can't be a home occupation. Again, restaurant, yeah.
How are triples and quads handled?
Oh, great. Multi-unit dwelling. Statute has some protections around those where there's sewer and water, so it doesn't apply to you. What we suggest is that you put a number on this, a maximum, and go 3, 4. Most people seem to be okay, 3, 4, 5. Above 5, people tend to get squirrely, just because they start to make a picture in their mind.
The federal government considers 1 through 4 to be single-family homes.
Yeah, there's code stuff around multifamily. which is
Yeah,
separate.
when I think multifamily, I'm thinking apartments.
Yeah, yeah.
And that's why, I mean, does it matter with what we're considering here?
It matters if you want to have somebody build it.
But I mean, if, because we talked about these in the housing section of our town plan, right? Encouraging different means of addressing the housing need. And so if the federal government says that's essentially a single family home, the mortgage industry considers it a single family home, are we running counter to anything if we treat it as multifamily?
Well, like a quad.
Yeah.
Yeah, no. There will be, the problem with quads is that they are required to be sprinkled under code.
Interesting, okay.
And, which is not your thing.
Which is typically not something that's required in a single, in fact, it isn't required in a single family.
Right. It isn't required in a single family home. And then it requires you to build a great big tank to put in the sprinkler. And so usually that keeps people out of building quads to sell willy-nilly. Again, that's per structure. So we tend to use 3 and 4 because the box, again, back to scale, the box is going to be like big house like. But somebody could put a few of them around. And if you typically do like the house in the barn, or make this thing look like a barn, and that's a quad, and the house up here is a triplex, and then there's maybe a shed up here, it's a single, it looks like a farm, it's actually 8 units. But no structure is more than, and we say, in the village, we're just suggesting, none of these are written in stone. In the village, yeah, you get a permit. In the rural business, because it's more dense, you get a permit. Rural residential, yeah, you get a permit. Out there in rural, you need to come in for site plan review, which is we're going to actually look at this thing and the shape and the size and the placement, and you just can't in other places. Yeah, maybe it could work out here in rural ag and forestry, but given your goal there, you're trying not to have lots of buildings and traffic.
Isn't that a controversy though that's going on, ongoing with Act 250 or 161, whatever that is?
181.
Amendment, multi-unit dwellings in rural areas.
Yeah, the spittle we get on that is, like, oh my God, we won't be able to have, we can't have housing anymore. You can have enormous amounts of housing in heartlands, rural residential, for example. You can put hundreds of homes.
But in some, why wouldn't it be arguably better to put multi-unit dwellings in rural areas than individual homes?
Well, yeah, but you want to pull them, you don't want them out in the edge of the woods, you'd rather pull them in towards town. Is the idea. But you might end up being like, who cares?
That's something we have to really spend some time on.
Yeah, because I put in boarding house as potentially allowed out there in the rural agricultural area.
We're already up.
And so you go, well, an inn and a boarding house from the outside is kind of like a multifamily structure. It isn't that different.
And that leads to my next question. When you look at inn and boarding house, do you make any attempt to where short-term rentals fit in that?
I have not put short-term rentals as a use, but you could. Your town plan right now has very specific language that you don't want hotels. So I'm assuming you don't want hotels. But maybe you want inns. And,
Limited it to 3.
And how big is the inn going to be? And then we suggest that towns really think about boarding houses, and we have a definition for that, which is essentially the old time boarding houses. It's not a hotel. People stay for long periods of time, but they don't necessarily have cooking facilities in their rooms. They may have common areas and stuff, and it works for some people. Restaurant. Retail, I just put the whole kit and caboodle of retail in retail. However, you have a general prohibition in the plan against formula retail and certain other kinds of retail. So that, where all that, if you're worried about where does that go, that goes in the definition of retail. And so we draw the box in the definition of retail that says you can't be formula, you can't be bigger than such and such, yada. There are, and we have stuff that, because we've run into it a long time, for example, home occupation, I'm a hairdresser, but I sell shampoo. Does that make me retail? No. So we have that covered. Service business, I fix lawnmowers, I also sell lawnmowers. Does that make me retail? No. I'm a landscaper, I sell trees, but I'm a landscaper, I'm still a service business, that type of thing. Inn and boarding house, again, I think you should think about inn, I think you should think about outdoor recreation, and probably not in the village, because it doesn't make sense, but maybe most other places except in industrial. Accessory on-farm business, you see a blank, because this is a crazy thing. Right now, there was just changes to statute around this thing. It is a real mess. But essentially, the way the law works is wherever somebody is allowed to farm, which is pretty much everywhere, they are allowed, you cannot prohibit an accessory on-farm business.
Say that again, please.
Wherever they're allowed to farm, you cannot prohibit an accessory on-farm business.
Accessory, because that's how they argued.
Yeah.
It was connected with their farm 2 miles away, they still.
Right.
And it's on, it clearly has to be on, but you can regulate it.
Yeah, so we can't prohibit it, but we can regulate it.
Yes,
And it has to be on the farm footprint.
it has to be on the same lot. Yeah. It can't be like, oh, I have a farm over there, and I have another thing over here. No.
What was the basis for this unneeded argument?
Well, I think they were,
You're saying they're going to use that land as part of the farm?
yeah, or maybe they had a potato patch on back. I don't know. It's a crazy thing. It's still pretty crazy, the statutory hole that they created for that, but it is what it is.
Who created the statutory hole?
The legislature. Yeah, as a way of trying to, I think, as a probably a well-intentioned way of trying to go, hey, let's help out farmers who want to have creamy stands. And they forgot that I can have Ben and Jerry's and one cow. And I meet an accessory on farm business because I only have to gross $2,000, not net, gross $2,000 a year to be a farmer. So if I sell the cow to Dan and he sells me the cow back, I'm a farmer. And now I can build Ben and Jerry's as long as I use that milk over here.
And that makes you a farm.
That makes me a farmer.
Without getting up at 5 o'clock.
Right. Contractor? I bet you have these. This is what I tend to see in several towns is contractor yards. They're usually property maintenance people. They've got 3 trucks and a bobcat and a pile of gravel. They may be a home occupation, but they typically don't fit this because they've got too many people. They store stuff outside or yada yada. And so they are often, it probably doesn't make sense to have them in the village, but maybe most other places, maybe
No, No,
not.
but the problem is that, what we've had in this town is that they fire up their equipment at 6 a.m.
Yes. Yes, that is exactly the beat problem, I call it, is when can they start doing that and that type of thing. And so through the site plan process, as well as maybe some standards that you actually write about, like when can you go beat, regulate them. Heavy industrial and light industrial, I break up. Heavy industrial are machines, sawmills, granite quarries, you name it. Anything where there's typically lots of truck traffic, but most importantly, noise, odor, dust, things outside. Light industrial, it's in a building. We don't know it just looks like somebody's big metal garage. Maybe it's a big metal garage and they have boats, maybe it's a manufacturing plant. The only thing to me that really you should care about light industrial is truck traffic. Well, it's very quiet over there, but there's a semi coming in twice a day. Well, that's okay. And so certain things you may want to think about, like, okay, they can do that. I have not put anything as a conditional use. I'm only giving you the site plan power because you can do anything that you can do in conditional use and site plan, but you have more flexibility. And again, site plan is going to be around lighting, traffic, landscaping, shape building, hours of operation, how they do the trash, you name it. Because most people, if I have a whatever, but you can't see it and hear it, it's just down some driveway, most people don't care.
Can I ask a
Yeah.
question that was similar to one I asked previously? We'll pick a contractor. They exist.
Yep.
Somebody else decides that they want to build very close to where they are as a contractor,
A new contract.
a new contractor.
Yep.
And we decided that any new contractor, as Dan was saying, can't fire up their engines before 6 o'clock in the morning.
Right.
But that other existing contractor always fires theirs up at 5 o'clock.
But so they can keep doing it.
One can keep doing it and the one just down the road can't.
Right.
Okay.
There are ways to deal with that. The biggest way is through a standard we'll write, which has to do with discontinuance. So if I'm a non-conforming use like that, I start up at 5 and the rule says I can't start before 6, but I can keep doing that. I close my business down. I moved to Florida. Then nobody else can start
Somebody
back
can
up.
buy that up
And
and
so
move
we
it.
lose that grandfather. That's not required, but that's highly suggested. The other thing is, I could write something about this, I guess, too, is how do you know that? I have a neighbor who's a quarry, for example. And they haven't quarried up there in years. But they used to quarry at some time, and so they got into getting it's not a permit, it's a jurisdictional opinion. This was the historical amount of quarrying you did ever. And so you can do that level again, but you can't do more without getting a permit. So it's pre-Act 250. And so that type of thing, like, well, we always used to fire our rigs at 5. No, you didn't. You didn't even own any trucks until this year. Well, how do you go through that process? And that's really not a permit, it's a jurisdictional opinion by the AO who goes out and goes, show me some evidence. Those are my suggested uses. Cannabis. Did you guys vote for cannabis? Or do you do cannabis?
I don't think there's anything.
No.
Okay. Good.
We have one down the road.
Yeah.
Several.
Before you get off the I just had one quick question. What's the thinking about not allowing residences in the industrial areas? Because we already have houses down there, and why wouldn't we want to, if someone wants to build a house in an industrial area?
Because typically they're just going to create conflicts, and people are going to be mad at each other, and then they're going to come to the select board to make these people stop in the beat meeting. They're like, hey, you bought the house in the industrial area. So you're just trying to avoid future conflicts. You might say, let fire do it.
That brings up something that just floated through my mind. I was looking at this and saying, gee, that's really interesting. And I remember when, there was an interstate light or somebody's house was showing a light and sort of 3 miles away or something or other. And I said, well, Kevin's going to lead through this and you're doing that and that's what you're here for. And but if somebody came along and said, well, this is really interesting, and you produced that, where can I find a town with something like this? Because I'd like to sneak around and see what Pomfret or somebody is doing or done.
Yeah.
And so that process, I'm not saying that I want to do it, but I'm saying what is the impact of that on our population, our customers, whatever you want to call them. The fact that exists, you see what I mean?
The fact that what another town's doing exists?
Yeah. Or is it, and does it behoove us to go around and find out a town like ourselves and look and see if it's like this?
I would say no, every town's different. The roads are different. Population center is different, access to industry is different. We don't have a compendium of like, I can tell you every town and kind of on the chart.
I'm not asking for that.
Yeah, this is certainly one of the most simple use lists of anybody who would have zoning in the region. I can tell you that. Just to make it, because it's intentionally pretty limited. A lot of people will break out retail into other stuff. They'll break housing into some more stuff. They will certainly put other kinds of commercial things in there. But I'm guessing that you don't want to get too worried about what kind of service business it is. If it's tire sales or lawnmower repair or whatever the thing is.
Is that just postponing the interpretation till later?
No, so everything will have like a paragraph-ish definition. So it'll be pretty clear about what can go on what lots. Yeah.
I would be very curious to fill out such a chart once it was defined. to see what the fillings were that would not allow a Sunny Maid.
A Sunny Maid.
Yep.
Probably the scale, I would say, more than other things. Scale really bothers me. And people aren't that good at scale, at thinking of scale. If you go, you know, what's a half-acre building? I don't know. The size of this room? Oh, no, it's big. So standards, again, I say all standards have definitions, so especially the setback. Because what is the setback from? The setback, you might go, well, that seems like a long ways in the village to be setback. That's from the center line. We try to always do setback from the center of the traveled way. Because anybody that would take measure can find it versus setback from the property line.
Center line of the road.
Center line of the road. Setback from the right of way. Well, nobody knows where the property boundary is. Nobody knows where the right of way is. A lot of times it's never been surveyed. You could try forever, but any reasonably bright person can go out and find the middle of the road and measure from there. Rear and side setback, obviously, that's the front, that's the side, that's the rear, back there. Relatively small side setbacks. Obviously in downtowns that goes to 0. But this, you know, you've got 10, they've got 10. Okay, now there's 20 between things. This is where it's useful to go around the village and go, what do we have? Are things actually pretty close? You can see it gets bigger as you go out. Except in the industrial area, again, they can be on each other's toes, who cares? Height, a lot of towns just have a 35-foot height from some old time when they thought, oh, but our ladders go 35 feet, who cares? So I've made it taller in the industrial area in case there's a grain elevator or God knows what, shorter in other areas. Maximum new lot grade, so this is if I'm driving my bulldozer around and I'm making stuff, I can't make steep areas. And we tend to use 35% as the max slope because above there you can start to have problems. Minimum lot width. Again, how wide is the lot going to be? You know, make it bigger in other areas, make it smaller where you want lots of stuff. Frontage. This would be if you have frontage. If you don't, and you just have a right of way, different story. Max commercial footprint. This is one way of getting at that scale issue. These are numbers I picked. Those are relatively big numbers. You know, out there in rural business of 10,000 square foot. The wall building in up by, a Britton's, or that type of thing. Those are probably 10,000 square foot buildings. 10,000 square foot is pretty big building. This footprint. Whereas then, out here you're going to be smaller. Industrial, we don't care. Big giant. Density is different than lot size. And so the density is how dense you can be. So for example, you need, in the rural residential, let's pick a rural residential, you need 2 acres per thing. But you can be on a half-acre lot. So we're not going to make you make a big lot, but you can't be overly dense. And so if you're going to need, if you want to build 2 things, you're going to need 4 acres, but you could build one of them on a half-acre lot and the other one on a 3.5-acre Same thing out here in the rural ag and forestry where you don't want much at all. You can only get 5, you can only get 0.2 per acre, but you can have a 1 acre lot. And so basically, that's a 5 acre district is the way to think about that, except they don't need to actually carve off 5 acres. You just need to have 5 acres, and then you go. And you might say, no, we want that to be 10 acres or something. But we use this now to go, yeah, but basically you should be able to sell 1 acre house lot. You just don't want 1 acre, 1 acre, 1 acre, 1 acre, 1 acre. There's the whole idea.
What did you write that standards table for? What town, what location, what,
What this here?
yeah,
Well, basically, I looked at your plan and thought about the varying densities out there. This would be similar to Plymouth, I would say.
so this is a chart for Heartland, or could be reasonably.
Yes, yeah. Most towns don't have a max commercial footprint. But to me, that's one way of you guys being relatively loose on commercial stuff, but solving the scale issue. Going, yeah, lots of ways we don't care what you do, but you just can't be big.
You see,
Versus getting into, vehicle mile, trips per day or something.
This tied up with my previous question or observation, more an observation than a question. This I'll put into more of a question form and say, do we, in preparation for working on this in the immediate future, need to go through this exercise, pull out some illustrative models, and have them prepared so that when Tom, Dick, or Harry or Susie comes in and she says, what do you mean I have to tell you how many of this I can have there? And there are people around who are going to be doing that. Is that your experience, that that's what happens with this
Really?
in town?
Because you got a preview of that Monday night.
It's not a bad idea because you're an architect, right, Jay?
I'm sorry,
Are you an architect? Do I remember right?
engineer.
Engineer.
But he's like an architect.
He's like no, engineers and architects are
Yeah.
a different ballgame. Is Pete? In my office, Pete's dad is an engineer. He says, always tell the architects no.
Yeah.
From the
Dreamers.
engineer's point of view. But a lot of people are terrible at scale.
Yeah.
And so if you say a 2,000 square foot structure, then people are, but if you go, oh, Bud's place over there, then everybody can make a picture. So having that, for example, in Bradford has a relatively small Hannaford's grocery store that's 37,000 square feet. So we use that as, if we say a small grocery store or Max Market, we know how big that is in Woodstock.
10,000.
And so if you go, well, this is the max size, so somebody goes, well, that's kind of small, and you go, it's this big, and then everybody goes, oh, well, that's, the fire station. How big is the fire station? Or that type of stuff. You have White's Dairy Supply.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
And so White's is probably the biggest structure in town, I'm gonna guess.
Could be.
It's a
It's
commercial
commercials.
Yeah, but
I remember some of our exhibits though, when we were talking Sunnymead, where the entire complex here with BG's Market was smaller
Oh, much
than
more.
this Sunnymead
Yeah.
footprint.
Yeah, Sunnymead is going to be the largest business
Yeah.
in town, I think. yeah.
But when you say that, you say, well, wait a minute, it's like what you said before. I got a restaurant, I got the post office, I got apartments, and I got a market. And it's smaller? Yeah, the visualization becomes tangible.
And a lot of people deciding whether they were in favor or not of Sunnymead, that's exactly what it was.
Yeah.
Well, do you realize it's going to be 50% larger than the shopping plaza here?
And think about the same thing on a use. What's the contractor's yard? Oh, well, Fred's contractor business. Oh, well, what's an office? Well, so-and-so's lawyer shop, or whatever the thing may be. So they go, oh, that's an office. You guys don't have a big office space.
Numbers are tough, because even when someone asked about the number of attendees at the select board meeting, you said 20, John said 20. I actually thought it was more. I mean, then I'm thinking the rows, and then I'm thinking, because every seat was taken, and I would have thought a larger number. Scale, numbers are hard to make tangible.
Yeah.
They're abstracts.
Yeah, and so we will actually put some pictures, some diagrams
Yeah.
in the bylaw. We have one now we commonly use for footprint, because people go, what's the footprint?
Yeah.
Because the setback is measured from the edge of the footprint. And you go, well, is that my foundation? But my roof goes out further than my foundation. And then I stuck a deck on here, which definitely is not my foundation. And so we use the concept of drip edge. Is where does the water drip off the thing? So it's the edge of your roof, it's the edge of your deck, it's the edge of whatever the thing is out there.
That's the footprint.
That's the footprint.
Well, that's what trees do, right? They drift lines.
So there's drip line. And then we have all sorts of niggly little language around height, does that include the weather vane or not? No. Is it average height? What if there's a hill on one side? We've been through it out. So there are ways to deal with it all. But I think about the uses in town. So, like, is there a use in town you have that's not on this list right now? I don't know that there is. But think about that. Think about use that you want. But you've clearly said we don't want hotels, motels, large retail, formula stuff. So those are out, Steve.
Well, that's us.
Yeah. Yeah, well, but your plan language is very clear on that, so that's I'm using it.
And we're also, in a way, self-regulated by the lack of water and sewer.
Yes,
Yeah.
because that keeps most
Nobody's
big
gonna-
things
yes.
down.
Just wouldn't pay for them to come in.
Yeah.
And we can't get housing because of that either. I mean, that's the real negative.
Yeah, that's what keeps, what's gonna keep people below like 25 units and stuff, because then they become a regulated water supply, and people don't want to be regulated water supply.
Can I ask a related question?
Yeah.
And this is nothing in particular that you said. Do you know of any towns, or the argument that you want to, rather than a unified bylaw, you separated it at least into commercial and residential, and have commercial regulations and residential regulations, and not put them in one unified bylaw?
Separate bylaws?
Separate bylaw, a commercial bylaw and a residential.
How about,
I don't know of anybody that does it. You're probably not, it's probably not illegal, but nobody.
Well, it wouldn't be a unified bylaw at that point.
No, the unified is the zoning and the subdivision.
Yes.
Start together.
But if you wanted to avoid residential subdivisions and just
Oh,
like
but
save that for a later day.
But you can do that. When we get to subdivision, you can be like, I don't care. A lot of towns have the freebie provision, which is,
The what?
I call it the freebie provision. It's everybody gets to make one extra lot. We don't care.
Yeah,
Ta-da!
we put that in an earlier version.
And that's usually like a lot of towns do that. If on any lot you own today, you can make a new lot. As long as it's a compliant.
How do we avoid a situation more like that issue in southern Vermont with the, I don't even know how to describe it.
Which issue was that?
The one with the, I think originally it was a gun range and it became a military training.
Oh, in Pollitt, yeah.
I mean, because that created a lot of problems for that town. For the state, and I mean, if foresight could preclude, not necessarily the subject matter, but the problems that arose from it.
Yeah. My suggestion is that in your definition for outdoor recreation, you say, and we don't mean military training camps or whatever. You do have a gun range in town.
Yeah.
It's not, yeah, it's,
Do you want another gun range?
well, you don't want to, I mean, that's a state facility, but you don't want to, you might not want private gun range.
Right.
So state that if that's the case.
Yeah, so
One exists,
so-
it exists.
Yeah,
it becomes a non-conforming use. You can't build another one, but that one gets to stay there. Gun ranges and kennels and gravel pits are the three things that we tend to separate from general standards. We write specific standards around them usually because you're always like, this always comes up, always comes up, always comes up.
Yeah, we have huge gravel pits.
yeah.
Yeah.
What
you do,
about
and-
animals?
What?
What about animals?
Kennels.
Kennels.
Kennels, you did say that, because you continually see these issues where
You've got one kennel.
people are hoarding
Yeah.
animals, and then it becomes another state or local action.
Well, it's where it's, you know, and then they argue it's agriculture.
And-
Right, you can have all the cats you want, or what, actually cats aren't covered in agriculture.
We did hear Monday night. What'd you tell me?
Roosters, it looks like you are gonna be able to regulate roosters, maybe, but,
You ever been to Hawaii?
chickens.
Well, I was thinking too of those deemed, but I guess that's at the state or federal level? The fights?
what?
Well, whether it's the cockfights or
Oh my
the dog fights or
Oh, yeah.
all that crap.
Yeah, that's.
Hey, we're getting into diversity now. We gotta
Oh,
drop
right.
the hints and the
All right,
roosters.
all right, I'm sorry, but it's like, yeah, I don't know, those are all,
Oh, yeah, once,
So you all have, that table.
Yeah. that was really helpful.
Because I sent it today, so think about those things. The next bits that I'll be giving are definitions, of course, so if somebody says, well, what do you mean by retail? I'm like, this is what I mean. Or restaurant.
Kevin, could I ask you to please resend that email, because under the districts and the standards, the last line that you had on there was not on ours.
Oh, okay.
The square footage or whatever it was.
Okay.
it's complicated.
And I didn't write it down.
I just must have chopped it off
It's
somehow.
really complicated.
That's okay, that was,
If you throw in the reactions to deal with, you know, the sales part of it is gonna be really hard.
It's not a right or a wrong either, it's not.
No, that's the thing, I mean, some people want like, especially on dimensional requirements, some people are like, well, what's the required setback?
Well, that was what spurred my question about the residential, breaking out the residential from the commercial, because I personally think commercial restrictions would be an easier sell than residential.
Yeah, so that's where
Yeah.
lighting, I
Yeah.
would definitely think,
Yeah.
maybe you only want to.
Yeah, you could pick what, it's easy enough to say what you don't want in residential, but to put in, have lot sizes and things like that in residential.
Would a home business be?
You also have some stuff about ridge lines. in the
Well, we
plan.
only allow
Yeah, there was.
definition of home occupation.
And
And so we
so,
say only home occupations are the only businesses
at least give you a
allowed.
basic
there.
ridge
Are
line.
they commercial?
Yeah, well, they're commercial, but we said the only commercial activity allowed in.
But now if you're regulating like lighting with commercial.
would you say that in
leading into-
previous exercises
Wouldn't regulate
like this one,
residential lighting.
that
People who just want security.
commissions have started out with what I would call a fairly broad group of categories, and then go into refine them,
For safety.
and I would decide on what we want, and then have subsections for each one, if we wanted to be more specific,
Yeah, I
or
mean,
just leave them and just write something in a definition.
I would say, first off, try to go to the definition. There's no end to how specific you can go if you want to. And there's no real reason, because the impact of a lot of of service-based uses are kind of the same. That it's some traffic, not lots of traffic. restaurants are all kind of the same, offices are all kind of the same. Light industrial can vary a good amount. Contractor yards, somewhat all the same, but the beeping is really the, and so one of the ways to deal with that is in the site plan standard where you just go, you need a 100-foot setback or something from the property line. So there's some trees between the beeping and your neighbor. And I'll figure out.
Or you could even put a decibel.
You can do a decibel, which towns commonly use.
But you have to
That at least
monitor
gives them-
that.
Well-
100 foot, you have an existing
Yeah, I mean, that could create a
in theory
decibel
barrier.
Yeah, and it's just a one way of kind of going.
But it gives the, an applicant the thing, you know, they could do sound suppression.
Yeah.
Or something.
Get around, you know, so-
Modify it somehow.
Thetford has an interesting one where they just as a blanket, they go, if you have a commercial use, if you're applying for commercial use, all the standards get doubled.
yeah.
Lot sizes get doubled, setbacks get doubled, everything gets doubled. And it's just their easy way of kind of going, well, you'll be a little further away from everybody else. Okay,
All right.
so that's our big gang tonight.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Discussion, yeah. Thank you, Kevin.
Yeah, we're gonna do on pockets.
Still light out? or
What's
not?
that?
We're gonna do
Yeah.
on pockets.
Well, you can't please all the people all the time. Yeah, see that.
The more we dig it.
When's our next,
Well, so any other business we wanna discuss?
Somebody online
Yeah,
wants
Amy.
to, does she
Amy's-
want
Oh,
to say anything?
Amy, anything you might wanna bring up this evening?
No, I'm good. Thank you.
Thanks, Amy.
You guys have a good night.
You
Thanks,
too.
you too.
Any of us, any issues?
I just want to, I had a Monday night conflict, which I just had to be, I had to go to Burlington at the exact time that you're meeting here. And I feel, guilty about that.
Yeah, I don't know if Kate has.
It was really important.
It was informative. It opened my eyes to a lot of different things and what lies before us. Challenges, opportunities.
The people, these three, remember the last time, so
Yeah.
nothing happened there that was a surprise to us.
Yeah.
July 1st
Yeah.
is our next scheduled date.
Okay.
July 1st?
July 1.
That sounds good.
July 1, yeah, all right.
Motion to,
July 1.
any motion to adjourn?
Trying to think of anything else. Is Kate still on?
No, she dropped.
I don't know, if I, yeah, I mean, if you can meet, I don't know if I can meet or not. I don't have any reason right now for saying yes or no.
What, for the date?
1st of July.
Well, it's the first Wednesday. If it
Yeah.
proves
Yeah,
untenable across the group, we'll look.
alter it.
Yeah, I mean, if people make plans and leave, so I can't be there, deal with that.
Are you encouraging us to do it?
Yeah, just you.
I'm missing, I was out of town for 1. At Creek.
He's got a new one. All right.
So July 1 is that the firm date now?
We're done. As
It's
soon
on my
as you do the motion, to adjourn.
You know
Motion
you're
to
not gonna
adjourn. Huh?
be- You know you're not gonna be here? on
No, I
July?
don't know.
Oh, okay.
Tune the irons in the fire.
Do we have one? Motion to adjourn.
I did.
Okay.
Okay, gang, see ya.
All right.
Thanks,
take
guys.
care.
Meeting is
Thank you.
adjourned at 8:10. Yeah, we're all.
Yeah, listen, I made these copies, I might as well give them to you. You really ought to be